Vampire. Chances are, if you live in the UK, you've heard of this coaster. It can be found at ChessingtonWorldOfAdventures Resort. That is a long ass name. Now, I am so biased when it comes to this roller coaster, so if you have any other opinions on this ride, that's totally fine, and feel free to let me know in the comments. But you can't argue with the fact that many of us have this ride as our first bigger class roller coaster. With a top speed of 45 miles per hour, which happens during the tunnel portion of the ride, Vampire isn't exactly known for its speed, but I do think it does a perfect job of outlining the best parts of a roller coaster without scaring the people that might be a bit afraid of the first time riding it. You might not realize it, but Vampire at its tallest is 70 feet. Accompanied by the trees and location of the ride within the Wild Woods area of the park. It feels like a nice ride through the forest. The station is also no joke. Vampire has an amazing soundtrack, eerie and quite edgy theming, and I really enjoy the improved version they made for Vampire's 30th anniversary back in 2020, adding the dubstep section, which really hypes up the ride. While I'm on the subject of the station, it would be rude not to talk about Marcel the animatronic. Marcel is the station's organist, and a lot of people might not know that if you look at the mirror you can actually see his face, but I don't know if it's worth the nightmares. Now, obviously Vampire isn't in its best state, and many older fans of roller coasters will say that it was in its prime while it had its swinging carriages, originally manufactured by Aerodynamics, but unfortunately I never had the chance to get on it, as I wasn't even alive at the original opening date in 1990. Let's talk about Vampire's layout. While it might not be the most interesting, I find that the swinging aspect of Vampire is what makes me enjoy it the most. There aren't many, if not any, coasters that still swing in the UK and the rest of the world. We're really lucky that it still swings in the first place. Originally they weren't going to reopen the ride, but after planning permission issues they realised that they would be able to get a roller coaster quite that size again, so they decided to go with Vekoma to change the train, which are probably the ones that you recognise nowadays. Full layout of Vampire takes 2 minutes and 30 seconds to get through, and I always feel like I get my time's worth when I wait for it. While bigger coasters may offer more in terms of thrills, Vampire certainly makes up for it in length. The most common criticism of this ride is the restraints. Another common criticism of Vampire is that it doesn't really do much, and I think this is exactly the same reason why Galactica gets so much hate. In my opinion, I don't think that every roller coaster has to be packed with thrills. The experience matters just as much as the layout, speed, and theming. While Vampire has sections of straight track, I really don't think it lets the coaster down in any way. It gives first timers some room to breathe before the next drop or helix that they're about to encounter. This is also the reason why I'm such a fan of Vampire. You get to enjoy the height of the ride, and it really feels like you're flying through the woods. I do still think the pacing could be looked at, but I'm sure that's something they will look at if this beloved attraction gets the retrack that it deserves. But I'm not sure people will enjoy it as much when it loses what made it special in the first place. The restraints are definitely restrictive. Who could have guessed? I think Vampire would definitely benefit from using lap bars instead, like Flight of the Pterosaur at Portland's Park. Just while I'm on the subject, please Colossus, please change the trains for Colossus, please Thorpe Park, I'm back. This might be a lukewarm take, but I actually prefer the leg dangling aspect of the newer trains, as you feel more involved and closer to the supports and tracks itself, creating some of the near misses. It's obviously not as prominent as something like the Swarm at Thorpe Park, but that's a given, as wing coasters are the best coasters for near-miss elements, as seen by the many amazing B&M wing coasters, like Gatekeeper, and even Mandrill Mayhem at the same park, Chessington. I feel like those spikes are going to take my legs off. Please, Chessington, don't hurt me. I can also imagine as a child this ride being a nightmare. It could be quite uncomfortable because of the inability to keep your neck forward as a child, resulting in a sore head. This is more because of the poor aging of the ride, because it's well over 30 years. You know what other coaster is 30 years old and did get a retrack? Nemesis. So where does this leave Vampire in terms of best starter coaster? I think it's one of the best, but obviously everyone will have a different opinion, and again, I'm super biased, so please don't be mad that my opinion is better than yours. But if you did like this video and had any other thoughts or opinions on Vampire, or even if you managed to attend the opening day of the original one, I'd love to know in the comments down below. This is only the beginning of my channel, so be sure to subscribe if you enjoy theme parks and sub-poor content by yours truly. It's been a pleasure. Take care, guys. Also, I will not be taking any Vampire slander. I know where you live and you will be banned.